Wake the fuck up, Delco Nerd Network. We got a hot take to do, a game to review, and that game is Cyberpunk 2077. I'm your host, Anthony Ragucci. On the street, they call me the Gooch. And here, I got the apple of my eye, Tim Appleby. They call him...
What's up?
They call him T on the streets of Night City.
T, just T.
T, yeah, you know, VT. It was gonna be tough. If Trio was gonna be on here, you both could very well be T.
Oh, that's right.
And I could have just ran with it. Like, this is T and this is T. They're both T.
Right. And
Yeah.
you're G.
Nah, I'm just Gooch, the Gooch.
Ah.
Yeah. See,
okay.
mine works out.
Right.
Yeah. I already got the nickname set up.
G.
All right. Enough of the charades. Enough with the Johnny Silverhand intro. Yeah, we got to review this game. I'm excited. So how I want to do this, instead of just kind of jumping into it, I want to sort of talk about the intro, like character customization, which corpo or whatever you picked, roll into Act 1, and then once we get to Act 2, just kind of open up. Awesome. Because I feel like this game kind of does do that. Like, it really doesn't open up until Act 2, and that's when
it really ramps you in. Nice and slow. So yeah, that sounds good.
So how did you feel about the character customization? Oh, actually, before we
like,
get into it,
yeah, like let's talk about the anticipation.
Real quick, before we get into it. Tim hasn't been on in a while. I wanted to say that it's been a few years since Tim has been on. Mission Impossible Fallout review was the last thing he was on.
What was that, like 2 years ago?
Yeah, it's been a long time, and I just wanted to mention it. Welcome back, Tim. Thanks for coming back on and guesting again.
No, this is fun. Yeah, I would have loved to have stuck around, but I've just been diving into so many different other projects and stuff.
Yeah,
but I gotta say, just shouts out to DNN and everyone who's been on. It's been awesome. I'm loving the gear improvements. Like, the whole set is looking so much better.
Yeah,
this is nice, guys.
As soon as I can get out of this basement, as soon as I move out, I think this will get a lot better. Because then I'll be able to, like, I don't have to deal with this fucking lighting, because I fucking hate it. And everyone who listens to this podcast knows
it was a pain. Even when I was here,
I don't like it. I just want some natural light, and then that'll solve the issue. But yeah, I'm sure it's a little, like, I think I don't even know if that tripod was there last time. Like, obviously the mics are brand new. Right. These lights are new. Like, yeah, it's changed.
Yeah, you got even the official podcast mixer now. Now it's real.
The DNN board.
Good.
All right. But back to the game. Character customization.
I mean, even before we touch in on that, okay. I just want to we got to call out to the fact that this game has been in development for what could be over 8 years. Like, this was a long time coming. Yeah. So for people who were jumping on sort of, when all the marketing and media hype started happening for this game, you were just on the tip of the iceberg for, like, how much anticipation there was. So for some people, expectations were like through the roof. Like, this was supposed to be not only the quintessential cyberpunk game, because obviously the genre's been around since the early 80s. But this was supposed to be the first true next generation game. And, CD Projekt Red and all the Witcher hype and stuff, there was a lot of expectations flying around.
What's funny, it was supposed to, but it really wasn't supposed to be.
It sort of did shift.
If they launched this game in April, this wouldn't have been next gen. And that's kind of funny to look at.
I mean, we'll get into that, but my hot take is it's still not next gen.
No, it's not. Yeah, for sure. 100% it's not.
But yeah, Rocky launch aside, I feel like that's been dug out to high heaven. I don't even want to talk about it. It's just one thing. I get it.
I'll hit this and then I'll be over with it. Right. The media and podcasters who got early copies of this game, I think, absolutely obliterated it to an unfair degree. It has problems. I recognize those problems. I didn't have a lot of those problems, but I did have some of them. But I feel like the media and the people who got the opportunity to play this game early really, like, took it out to the backyard and shot it in the back of the head. And they barely talk. Yeah. Like, I'm not, like, gonna sit here and like talk about anyone in particular, but like a lot of these sites and the people who got the game early, just I feel like what they talked about was the issues and not the actual game. But also they didn't get review copies until like a week before, so I don't really think that was enough time to really understand Cyberpunk.
Right. Yeah, and you know how all like IGN and GameSpot and everything they do. They sit down with a guy who's just paid for 36 hours straight of ripping through a game, and give your take on it. And they probably already have all those articles.
I think they had a week.
Anyway.
They had a week.
Okay. Oh, well,
that's not a lot of time.
It's not a lot of time, and especially with
this kind of
state of the game the way it was.
Yeah,
it
that
was
too.
Not. I mean, the game was literally unplayable for me until the hotfix that came out about a week later. Like the moment I spawned into the game.
And you played on PC?
I played on PC.
Yeah.
Not the best hardware. I have a 1070. But it was fine, but it was definitely bumpy. Like when I first booted into the game. I picked like the Nomad background, and I could just see all of the trees through the walls, and I was like, "This is not supposed to happen." So, it wasn't like it didn't have the greatest first impression, but I think on that note, with the start of the game, we can let's jump into the characters and the customization.
Yeah, a big, I feel like, I don't want to say selling point, but a big point of this game, I feel like the customization of V and what you can kind of do to their look, not necessarily just the stereotypical face sliders, but like the hardware, the chrome, like what you can kind of do to them, the dick slider, the boobs, the vagina,
which wasn't even a dick slider.
It wasn't.
Let's just make that
clear.
It
was just circumcised and uncircumcised,
and I think you had like 3 like big, medium, small choices. That was it.
No, it's 2. It's like,
was it really?
It's small, and I think. No, yeah, you're right. There's 3.
Yeah, no slider.
I think for boobs, it's the same thing too, right?
I don't know. I didn't make a female character.
Yeah, Trio did. Unfortunately, he's not here.
No, I think character customization was cool, especially to give you a little bit of a sense of the style, especially if you're like totally fresh to the cyberpunk genre. You have all your little augments and your little bits and bobs that are on your guy or whatever. But I think overall, I wasn't that impressed with it.
No,
it was
I was about to say the same thing.
You really had 3 general like facial presets, and it was kind of tough to stray away. I have seen some people who've gone over the edge with the character customization, and they do some wacky stuff.
I saw
and
somebody.
I do appreciate that.
So the default female V is much different than like the first iteration of her that they showed in the trailer, because I think the first gameplay trailer we saw was a female V, and somebody like recreated her.
Huh.
And I was like,
oh, because they got rid of the preset. Oh wow,
right,
okay.
Yeah.
So at least they were true to the.
And I was just like, oh wow, she looks a lot better than whatever the default is now.
Right.
And then the male has changed as well, but like not anything crazy. But I really like the way my guy came out looking. But yeah, I would admit I did feel a bit underwhelmed. Like I feel like I was like, I've seen more in other games, like slider wise and stuff. But at the end of the day, you don't get to look at your character that much.
Yeah,
in the game.
That was sort of my next point. Is like for all the customization that they sort of touted,
you don't
it didn't really matter.
Right.
You see it most in like the inventory screen, which I do appreciate. Like games like the Elder Scrolls and Oblivion and stuff, where like you hit the inventory and you see your character, and it's like it's a good marker for your progress, and you have a little bit of attachment to your avatar or whatever. So I do get it, but at the same time, like it didn't matter.
Right. And I think one thing, it's like, oh, maybe if the cutscenes were third person,
right,
that would be different.
Yeah, and you can already there's already fan mods for third person.
I really think, and we kind of, I don't want to jump to the end, but at the end, every ending has a third person shot or some third person shots of your character actually talking.
Yep.
Or like you see them, and I'm like, why couldn't have we done this through the whole game?
Right? Yeah.
I mean, like, look at Witcher. I mean, like, it's a third-person game, so it is kind of different. But, like, all the cutscenes, I feel, really added to all these little hunts and quests that I feel like in Cyberpunk, I run up to, a group of people, I kill them, I pick up a shard that has, like, some, like, little story, but, like, at this point, I've read, like, 6 million of them, so I can't be bothered anymore with this, like, flavor text crap. And I move on. But with Witcher, it's like, oh no, you're talking to you get the mission from the board or somehow in the little town. You talk to the people, you get to know them and like find out like what's going on from them. Then you go, it's looking and investigating yourself. Like, it just feels like a lot more personal and like a lot more care was kind of put into the smaller content in this game. And, you know, and again, it's like, I feel like if I was looking at my character more, I would have liked it more.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely touched on a lot there, especially with like the lore and how that was presented in this game versus like other RPGs. And I think in general, it's pretty evident that it took a back seat. You know, a lot of like the written lore and stuff that was on these little data shards were completely inconsequential to the story. They had no effect at all on this. It was like the equivalent of like picking up like books in Oblivion. But the difference is like books in the Elder Scrolls were like kind of fun, and you could see like they had covers and they, you know, they added so much more of a tactile element. Well, this was just like, well, it's just another wall of text that it may or may not be worth reading. You don't know until you read it. So it's at some point, you know, when I started going into rooms and there's just like 10 of these things scattered all over the place.
Jesus,
I don't read a single one.
Right. I was reading them a lot at the start, but then I just got to the point I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
like,
there were a few that were kind of cool, and there were some that I could tell like they're all like interconnected. Like this it was like some diary, like I think it was the Watson Whore or whatever, had like different different little data shards that were scattered all around. They told told the story of this person. They're like, okay, that's cool, but I would have no way of knowing that if I was just looking at that in the world, because all of the data shards just look like general like hard disks or whatever. There was no
and they all look like usually then some of them are just communications between like two people, and it's like whatever. I don't really need to read this.
Yeah.
And at a point in time, I didn't read them. You know.
Yeah, there were definitely a lot of times like that.
I sort of want to jump off one thing with the character customization. I wish you could chrome yourself out a little bit more. And what I mean by that is not necessarily, just changing your hands, but like maybe I have one totally robotic arm, or like maybe, you know, I do what Maelstrom does and I fucking lose half my face. Yeah. I wish they did at least some of that.
I think I would have liked to see that a lot too.
One thing
because of this.
I will give the game. Continue. There are so many different people with so many different types of hardware and chrome. Like some people don't have any, and then some people are fully kitted. Like there are a lot of variation in the NPCs in this game. It's like some people like are just a leg and an arm, maybe both are arms. Some people have none. Right. And sometimes they talk about it.
I think it is really cool to see the ones that are walking down there like fully, like all their skin is like the shiny chrome, and I'm like, okay, that's sick.
Yeah, like Lizzie Wizzy is one of those people who like is fully, I mean, like her lore is like she commits suicide, and then like I guess they like transplant her like engram onto like another body, so her body is like, you know, fully.
Oh, so she's full on Robo. Okay,
I think so. I don't think any of her is left. And that's
pretty
cool. Did you do her quest?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so she hires you to do something, and like she kind of get like by interacting with her, like she's like changing, and she's like she's not like a normal person anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that also ties back.
And
to
you know that she's played by Grimes, like Elon Musk's
no way,
husband,
huh?
Or wife.
I did not know that.
Yeah, isn't that
that's
funny?
just another little thing in the game that you.
And
just
Elon Musk is a big fan of this genre.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I was waiting for
he's
an
a total
Elon
geek.
Musk cameo.
Yeah,
I was waiting for it.
I'm kind of glad we didn't get one. I thought even the Kojima thing was pushing it.
Oh, dude,
I was like, come on.
No, it was great.
Because it was very obvious as soon as I saw it. I didn't know that he was in it.
I think they had to make it obvious, right? It's Kojima. Like, you kind of have to point to it.
No, I would maybe a little more subtlety.
So you rolled. Did you want any character customization stuff?
I was Nomad.
I was Corpo, and dude,
good. I should have picked Corpo.
Trio had a migraine and couldn't come, and he was Street Kid. We would all had all three, and that's what I was hoping.
Trio had a relic malfunction today.
Yeah,
so,
His Johnny was
down. Trio, hope you feel better.
Yeah. He's not dead though.
Yeah, I honestly, looking back, I would have rather picked Corpo, because I feel like
I got a comment to that, but go ahead.
I feel like and this is a general comment too, is like so much of the game revolves around, you know, with the plot with Johnny Silverhand, with, you know, anti-Arasaka, anti-Corpo stuff, but none of the game includes the setup. And maybe this is where a Corpo background would have helped me understand this, but none of the foundations for why should the player hate Arasaka, why are the corpos bad, none of that is apparent when you pick Nomad or that. It's just you don't know. So you're coming into this and you're like, well, okay, this corporation's bad. The whole plot revolves around this anarchist who's trying to take down this company, and I don't know why the fuck I'm supposed to not like them.
You're onto something. Like, because you in Corpo, you do work for Arasaka,
right?
And something. So basically, from the beginning, you're working with Jackie to kind of like do something there. You're not. You work for Arasaka like legitimately, but like you're also like doing some shady shit in your personal stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And, like,
Because there were different factions within Arasaka and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you get found out, and that's you're out. So you do have this like my character like. I not that I had a grudge against Arasaka, like I never really felt like that, but you do have this corporation background that kind of feeds into Johnny's whole shtick.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, with Nomad, but here's the thing with the origins in general. I don't think any of them really matter all that much.
Yeah,
and it sucks to see. It sucks to see how short that section is.
Yeah, it unlocks some dialogue later, but for the most part, it's completely.
There's a lot of corpo dialogue things.
Yeah, though there's a lot of. I think there's a lot of everything. They did space it out a little bit, but the actual effect that it has when you like enact that dialogue,
isn't much.
I don't really think it matters.
No,
because I've had to reload saves where I did something different, and you get a little bit of a different response, same net outcome. It doesn't matter. It's just okay.
Right. I never was like, because I picked the corpo background, like this played out differently.
Right.
I never got that vibe.
It was never. It was literally just the first 20, 30 minutes of the game. That's like what your background impacts.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's it.
Which kind of sucks because
it does kind of suck.
I
honestly would have rather had them spend just a focused and dedicated amount of time on one really, really solid intro and had everyone go through that. Because if you think about it, like this game, and for the most part, it is on rails. It really is. You have one or two, maybe three main story missions. They all carry out the same way. The dialogue doesn't mean shit. Okay, it might impact some other things here or there, but for the most part, it's inconsequential. The game's on rails. And I would have liked to see them, instead of try and feign the illusion of choice, like, oh, well, everything you say is going to like make an impact on what happens. Just give me a good story. Just focus on the one thing. Give me a good story with Cyberpunk, because that's what they tried to do. For the most part, I think they did it pretty well. But you could see there were elements where they thought they were doing more than they actually were. And I didn't really buy it.
Yeah, I think they sold this game to be so much more than we got, and it was kind of like not that. See, and here's the thing: like when the game was kind of coming out, like those last few months, I was not super hype on it. I actually blacked out most of the.
I wasn't hype at all.
Most of all the stuff.
I didn't watch any of the media hype. I didn't watch any of the stuff. I was actually kind of upset to hear that they got Keanu Reeves as like a thing, because that to me, because it breaks a lot of the immersion.
If
I have to look at Keanu Reeves while I'm playing this game,
dude,
like I'm supposed to be.
I think he fit pretty well.
He did. He did, and a lot of others were commenting like it was because Keanu Reeves isn't the most expressive actor. There's a lot of like memes about how like he's not the greatest, but I think he did fit this character well. I will give him that, but I just didn't think you needed it, and I thought it all played into it was like, oh, this game's it's so overhyped. Like they got all these big names in it. They have all these like billboards, ads, posters, like all this shit for this game, and like I was trying so hard to not let that skew my expectations, because I lowered the bar like pretty substantially going in. I was like, okay, yeah, it was. Thank God. See, my expectations were, okay, I'm going to get GTA 5 with a little bit of RPG elements and a Cyberpunk skin. That's what I'm going to get.
Yeah,
and for the most part, that is what we got.
You're not too far off. Yeah. I didn't expect the GTA vibes. It's very GTA, Borderlands, and Deus Ex.
Yeah, I would absolutely say Borderlands comes out a lot.
Yeah.
Deus Ex a little bit.
Just with the
yeah, like a little bit.
Yeah.
Gameplay wise, not really, but thematically, yeah. But yeah, that's what I expected. And I'm happy with it, but it's not what I wanted, and I don't think it's what a lot of people who are waiting for wanted.
I would agree. One of my big gripes with the game overall is like the vibe of it in general. Let me kind of explain what I mean. I like Cyberpunk. I love Deus Ex for that exact reason. I think Deus Ex is a really cool world. But what I don't like about Cyberpunk is how unsexy it is. And let me explain. Cyberpunk, like you are, we're a mercenary. We are kind of like down in the dirt of this city, like regardless of your origin, which Corpo is the only one you're kind of like up top, like Street Kid and Nomad, you're kind of in the dirt.
Right, yeah.
So I don't like that perspective. I didn't like who V kind of is supposed to be, this mercenary who's, like at the bottom of the rung, sort of trying to work his way up. I guess that's like kind of the whole point of the game. Not the whole point of the game, but like V's motivation.
Yeah,
is
where you start.
Wants to be the top. Right. Same with like Jackie. And it kind of like I just didn't like. I don't like that backstory. I like how Adam Jensen in Deus Ex is sort of like a corporation agent, and he's kind of has his own motivations, and like he's a special circumstance of himself. And I just like how like he's kind of not that he's coming down from on top and kind of getting in the dirt, but like he's seeing everything through like every perspective in a way, because he is augmented. He is more well off than most of these people, and like as you kind of deal with people like in Cyberpunk it's cyberpsychosis, in Deus Ex it's people go, I don't think they have a name for it, but people like basically go crazy because their implants reject them, and they have to take a drug called neuropozyne to coincide with that. And Adam Jensen does not have to do that because of lore reasons. He doesn't have to take that drug. His body just works with his augments.
So he can just get fully kitted out.
Right. And there's no... Right. It also works for the game, but there's a lore reason behind it. But with V, I just kind of felt like I wish the game wasn't so gritty and dirty, and I wish it was just sexier, and like it's not all like, not even so much like the language and stuff. It's just the way the game is kind of shown to you. I wish Night City was sexier. Does that make any sense? Do you know? Like,
no, you're right, and I think the game and Night City in general, I think just has this like weird. I mean, it's grimy for a reason. Obviously, Cyberpunk is like, it's supposed to be 90% garbage, and then the 10% is like your penthouse, corpo suites and things like that, which they do a great job when you're actually in those environments. They look, hey, this is sweet. This is sleek and clean.
The city has so many different districts and vibes. Like you get the vibe that there are nicer parts of the city. It's not like the whole thing is shit.
Right. Or like when you're in like Haneko's penthouse and they're like nice, piano lounge area, whatever. It's like this beautiful corporate thing, which is total, that when they do that distinction, it's great. But the problem is you get a whole bunch of the dirty shit and it just feels like empty. There's nothing there. And that's what 90% of the city is, just basically, it's just there. It's a prop.
It's
what? Not actually, and it gets to the point where like you're walking down the street and you see these big neon signs, and then the sign that says open pointing to this door, and it's a unique looking door, and you walk up and the door's locked.
Yeah.
You can't, there's not a thing behind it. It's just there. It was just built as a prop, and they just didn't do anything with it. And it's just these huge neon signs like open, and then you can't go in the door. And I'm just like, okay, this is a perfect like analogy right here for this game. Like, it's this beautiful, huge city that they spent hours and hours, days, weeks, months, years building, and they couldn't fill it. They just didn't have enough content. And that's like where, back to the whole comment about like the game is mostly on rails. The few detailed environments like the afterlife bar and the Yaldecaldo camp and like all these other like special environments are so detail rich and feel so good that when you take the single step outside of that environment into the night, into the thing, it's just what's this? This is like garbage.
Right. It's not that it's bad on the surface. It's when you look under the surface, it's like, oh, there's really like not anything here.
And I really appreciate the detail that they put into those special environments, but it's almost like it in a way would have been better if they reeled it back a little, because the distinction between the rest of the 90% of the world and those little areas that they did like really, really well on and focused on is so great that it just feels like broken. It feels like, is this game supposed to like be suddenly empty and detailless and flat and boring? And then you turn around and you walk into the the one place where there's a story mission like Judy's apartment or something, and it's like, oh, suddenly the game looks fantastic again. There's like things again. There's little details here and there, and it's just such a like juxtaposition like walking out there. And that's why I think like in a way like they could have just made this a linear non-open world story game, and it would have been just as good.
Yeah, sort of akin to what Witcher 2 was. Witcher 2 was really linear,
Right.
very linear. Open world when when it opened up, but
Right.
like each act was in a certain location, and once you moved, you couldn't go back.
Right.
But Witcher 3, I think, like nails its open world for the exact opposite reason Cyberpunk doesn't nail it, because there's not a lot in between those cities,
Right. Yeah.
and there's not as much to detail, and that's okay. I think Witcher 3's open world really worked for me,
Oh,
and
yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
very critical of open worlds at this point, because
Me too.
like I kind of we were saying with Cyberpunk, when like these crimes are just like, these are not fun, like doing these crimes and these NCPD like subcontractor missions, and even some of the fixer missions, like, oh, let me talk to you, let me give you some like 2 seconds of unique dialogue, and then the rest of the story is attached. Like,
Right.
why couldn't there have been less of those, but like I actually like get the contract from you and you tell me everything, and then I go
Right, yeah.
maybe interview the person that gave the contract, see what's going on with them, like get more information from them. I feel like they kind of cut a lot of corners in regard to that side content
Yeah,
that's just like
absolutely.
is there in The Witcher.
Right, and especially with The Witcher, and I think you even touched on this prior, is like there's so much of that like personal touch context. Like when you go up to a mission board in The Witcher, you pull the contract off the wall, you read it, like you feel like, okay, I'm building into this on my own accord, right?
Right.
And in Cyberpunk, it's like, okay, you're driving along to the next exclamation mark, and suddenly you just get a phone call from someone you don't know who the fuck. Who are you? Who's Regina? I don't even know who are you. I met you through the phone, and now suddenly I have 10 quests. Like, what?
And
Like,
six
what
of,
happened?
And 6 of them are
Yeah,
cars.
like, yeah, I just don't.
One thing that bothers me, the way they introduce buying cars, like the fact that they're
Horrible.
quests. I was like, this is
Horrible.
not. This
It
is
would have
not
been really
good.
cool if they had those cars as just secret rewards to the cool little side quests that they have in the game.
I don't mind
I would've-
buying cars. I think
Yeah,
just
I don't
the
mind
way,
buying
way
either.
they display
Yeah,
it
it's just
is
like
not
suddenly someone you don't know, have never interacted with in the game before, calls you with a car. It's like, hey, I thought you specifically, like, what are you, like spamming Night City with your car ads? Like, what are you?
good. What do you-
Where
what
am
are
I
you
getting
doing?
this phone call?
And it's just sitting in a parking lot. You
Right.
go up to it and hit a button, and you magically.
It's just and I think a lot of the story was presented in that way, where like you are just trying to get through the one piece of the story that you find yourself caring about, whether it's some of the good side missions like Pan Am's I thought was great. Glitches aside,
Did you
I had a
romance
nightmare.
Pan Am?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
but the whole sequence was really cool. I like the whole Nomads a lot. That's why I picked them.
Yeah.
So I thought like that was really cool. But yeah, it's just like you just are constantly bombarded and interjected with like what are more or less distractions from what is really the game that they did work on. 90% of these quests aren't fun, have absolutely nothing to do with the story, the universe. They're just go do this, go have some gameplay. Here's some gameplay. That's what it was. It was just go have some gameplay, do the same thing, go sneak around, blast people in the face, one shot kill them, and then leave. And here's your credits.
What difficulty did you play on?
I played on hard.
Okay. I have a lot of issues. I think the game is not balanced well for difficulty at all.
No.
Because you can one-shot people, and then they can one-shot you. And
Yes,
that's
the
kind of
only-
my, like,
some of the only
literally.
times I've died in the game are when the game is just completely glitched out and there's nothing I can do, and I have to reload an older save, or I just get one shot in the head from a sniper rifle who was so far away that he didn't even render. And it wasn't my computer. I cranked the settings to ultra just to see if they would render. I changed the LOD. I tried everything I possibly could. Looked for modding, ways to increase the LOD so he would actually like show up in my game. Invisible.
It's funny.
Totally invisible.
I didn't run on the Xbox Series X. I did not run into a lot of bugs. I ran into the occasional, this weapons like thing is still like on my screen, or there's this black bar from the dialogue.
I have that too.
I had 8 crashes, and they all happened after 60 hours.
I see. I didn't have a single crash.
My crashes every time the map. Every time I
Wow.
open the map quickly, I did something. Oh, damn.
Huh.
Crash.
I've never had a crash, but the bugs are just absolutely insane. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, the UI, it's like if there's two things, God forbid you kill an enemy and he drops 2 things next to each other, good luck picking up the one you want. You'll have to get both. You have to get both.
Yeah.
Because it's just there's no way to finagle the UI to like,
or like there's a body on top of it.
yeah, or like it's under a
tough.
car and you're screwed. You can't get it. I had to happen. A
I had to happen very
legendary
early in the
item
game.
just flopped under a car. Couldn't get it. I was like, all right, I guess I'm not getting that. Whatever it was. Like, but I, for the most part though, like when the hot fixes came out, I think the glitches were okay. There were still the UI glitches that you mentioned, where like every now and then a weapon or whatever you hovered over will get stuck on your screen, and there's nothing you can do. Or like the black bar from dialogue is stuck.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, it was definitely playable. It was playable. So if you're thinking you should wait to hold out on the game because it's like completely broken trash, it might be trash, but it is not broken. And it's still a good game.
I would kind of agree with that.
Yeah, it's not broken. Yeah, you can definitely play.
Yeah,
but I think touching onto like mechanics a little more too, and you
Sure.
mentioned a pretty good thing. The balance, especially the AI, is just dumb as a brick. Dumb as a brick.
It's
like
bad.
scaling. The thing is, like they did difficulty so lazy that when you increase your difficulty, nothing about the AI or the actual game changes. It's just the numbers. Enemies suddenly just do more damage and resist more cyber, and are harder to hack. Like that's all it is. It's not they didn't get smarter. Like it's just the numbers are bigger. Great job. Great job.
I started on very hard, and I was like, I'm literally getting one-shotted no matter what. I do.
And
I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous. So like, I made sure there wasn't a difficulty achievement, and I went down to hard, and it was better. But I'm still like I'm max level. I'm 50. And I'm still getting one-shotted by people. Why? Why are they one-shotting me? But I'm also one-shotting them.
The way the numbers work. Yeah, it's just dumb.
Like this isn't hard. This is just stupid.
Yeah, because you got the whole crit damage
open worlds
thing, and then
are really like Skyrim and Fallout never get difficulty right. Enemies are always just fucking bullet sponges. Like you can hit them for days and you don't fucking kill them.
Yeah, but it's because AI is hard to do. That's the thing. And so how do you counteract not having a computer that can play as smart as a person? Well, you just make them have bigger numbers. That's it. You just give them more stats.
And maybe with this games, there just shouldn't be difficulty, and things should just scale naturally.
See, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
I think like Assassin's Creed,
Dark Souls does it.
The open world games,
they can do it.
Valhalla, Origins, and Odyssey, I think all do that.
Right.
Where like the game just scales and there is no difficulty. And I think it's a better experience. Yeah, because difficulty in this game is just like, this is fucking stupid.
Yeah, and there's a few things that made me a little disappointed with like the mechanics in general. Like if we're gonna dive into gameplay here, first of all, the whole stealth mechanic, just complete garbage. It might be one of the worst implementations of a stealth mechanic I've ever seen in my entire life.
It's not even
you can
very
walk
fleshed out.
right in front of someone's face, and if you have high enough stealth, their meter will still raise slowly. I would just walk right across, right in someone's field of view. They will not see you because they have a stealth meter, which has to fill to the top before they actually see you. So it's not like, in Metal Gear, it's either they see you or they don't, right?
Right.
No, you have like a timer to before they see you.
Timer. Yeah.
And it's just like, we're in 2077 here, and you're telling me with your fully kitted out system, you can't just see through the fucking wall?
It's actually funny that there isn't a thing for that.
Well, there is. It's a cyber hack reveal location. But, but that's
true.
That's still like, should you even need that? Why can't you see through the wall,
That's
dude?
what I'm saying.
Like, come on. Like, and I would appreciate that as a concern of difficulty, because that means you had to do a better job scouting out the thing and find the dude who had that, who X-ray augment or whatever. And okay, let's take that guy out first because he's gonna find me, But no, none of that. It was just baby's first RPG in that regard. It's just super easy. Just pick up the highest damage revolver you can and just shoot him in the head from stealth. And you're gonna want to kill him. You're gonna want to kill him. It doesn't even matter if you're specting it or not.
Revolvers are pretty powerful.
It's just gonna kill him. And yeah, the whole stealth thing completely thrown out the window. I used it just to get through the shitty quests, but then for the most part, I preferred actually doing a run and gun. Because the shooting mechanics are good. They're good shooting mechanics.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's a fun shooter looter game to play. But in terms of like stealthy, hacky, whatever, kind of garbage. Like even the way they did like quick hacks. there's nothing to it. It's just like, okay, look at the guy, activate your spell, use your mana, and it does it. And that's it. That's hacking. That is hacking.
I feel like they introduced the idea of enemy net runners and they kind of affecting you, but I feel like that didn't really happen all that much.
I think I've gotten actually like it was maybe 2 or 3 netrunner enemies who actually managed to like do some damage to me from quick hacks, and the rest is just they got obliterated.
You know what's weird? The game,
happen.
Since we're talking about like cyberware and stuff, I don't think the game does a good job of like introducing you to a lot of mechanics in the game. Crafting being one, and cyberware being the other.
Crafting for sure.
It's just like, could you like explain the fact that like I don't have to be a netrunner? I can get a I don't know what that piece is called, but that like a deck that is for berserking,
right,
and I can do punching.
Yeah,
like I didn't discover that until late in the game. It's like they never really tell you.
Yeah,
that.
There's a few. There's the berserk one, and then there's like one that
slows time.
Yeah, you can just press a button and slow time.
Right, and here's the thing.
Cool.
Here's the thing. I feel like net running is like a huge mechanic of the game that like they just take out with that. I feel like you're like if you're not doing that, you're missing out on like like what I thought was pretty cool. Mechanic.
I don't think you're missing out on anything.
Okay.
If you're playing this game, just don't even bother with quick hacks. Don't. Maybe hack a camera every now and then because that's kind of useful. But for the rest, it just doesn't matter. It really doesn't.
It is kind of sad that like
when you can just one hit when you can just
gun.
click your button and kill someone with stealth and walk right in front of their face, basically shoot them in the head and instantly kill them. Why do you even need hacking? But even aside from that, even if it was like an effective or fun mechanic, like they just did it so lazily. Like you're looking back to like the source material for like what net running was and like where like the neuroverse is and like your mind and like all this like stuff that happens with your cyberware, like back to like the source material, like the Cyberpunk RPG book and like Neuromancer, which is like one of the first like novels written about Cyberpunk universe. There's so much more to it that they just You're just gonna click the short circuit button and they're gonna fall over.
You know what
that's what you're gonna do.
You know what I was looking up last night? So there's 2 versions of Cyberpunk, the pen and paper game. Cyberpunk 2013 and 2020.
Right.
And guess who are all main characters in that game? Johnny Silverhand, Alt Cunningham, Carrie Uridine, the whole band, Thompson, the dude who records one of the missions with Johnny. Like I'm like, all these people are in the original.
Yeah.
I was like,
they
wow,
were true to that.
I didn't realize that at all. All these characters are like from the original game. I had no idea.
I mean that's why people were so pumped about like what the Cyberpunk RPG meant. Like it had a whole story universe backing gameplay. Like everything was already there.
I knew the universe was there.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure about the characters.
Right.
And I guess kind of switching back to Act 1, I guess we can kind of the only thing we need to talk about is probably Jackie, and then sort of like leading up to that first gig that shoots
up to now, spoilers ahead. So
yeah, for sure.
Maybe if you haven't played, for I'd say wait till it goes on sale, which it already has. If you could pick up a key if you're on PC for like $35, I think now. So definitely do that if you're trying to play and you're a little on the edge on whether or not your PC can handle it or whether it's actually in a playable state. Otherwise, I say wait on this one. It's a good game.
I think if you're on last generation PS4, Xbox One, don't
even bother. Don't even bother.
The game works really well on the current gen PS5 and Series X/S. Last generation Trio went from 1 to Series X, and he said it was like night and fucking day.
Yeah,
like it was.
I think
ridiculous.
if you still have last gen and you kind of want to play a little bit of a shooter game, just boot up GTA and like strap a katana to your back and like shine some purple LEDs in your face and then just call it. That's basically what you're gonna get with PS4.
But yeah, Act 1.
Act 1, sick. I think Jackie probably is still my favorite character.
It's interesting how they took him out of the game very quickly.
I think he was one of the most well animated, expressed, and acted characters in the game, and so I was a little upset. Not at the emotional attachment, which it was a pretty cool way to go out. I thought that whole sequence was great, but I was a little upset by just they just built up all this my best friend character and now that's gone, and now I'm replaced with this like emotional husk of Keanu Reeves, and like I'm just like, oh shit, like now I gotta go and damn it.
Not Keanu's here.
Right.
But I think the lead up to kind of like, you know, I wasn't even sure how Silverhand played into this whole game until I got there, and I'm like, oh, you have this chip in your head, and that's kind of like where the Silverhand engram is on this relic chip, and you find out like, you know, this is an Arasaka sort of like prototype piece of technology that they're, you know, essentially plays into one of the endings, but like, you know, you can transfer consciousnesses to people, and like you can like take over their body, and you kind of see that with yourself. Johnny Silverhand eventually taking you over, and that's the end of it. You know, that's what happens to a degree with some of the endings. But I really like Johnny. I really do. I think Keanu did a really good job. Especially as I get towards the end of the game, like Johnny, like one of the things they really commit to the bit of Johnny Silverhand. Like he's a dick. Like it doesn't matter if you hate him, you love him, or you're in the middle on him. Like he's still a dick to you.
Yeah, they 100% play in to it. It's this like ridiculous, like almost like teenage level fantasy level person. You know, you're the angsty rock star, famous badass who's got the gun and the cool thing, and you know he's got all these like women groupies and stuff, and he's also like some super badass like
terrorist,
corpo fighting terrorist. Yeah, like it's basically like a teenager's like wet dream.
What's funny is he comes from like, you know, he would exist now. 2021, Johnny Silverhand would be a thing now, and like rocker boys are like a thing in the Cyberpunk universe where they're like, you know, they play music, but they're also like rebellious like political activists,
right?
And they kind of like not recruit people, but like spread their message through their music, like it's a thing. Like they use that term, but like I was looking at the wiki, I'm like, oh, this is actually like a thing. They're not just saying rocker boy to like describe him, like that's like it's like an archetype. And you know, it like, yeah, and you find out he has like a military past and stuff, and yeah, and you get to play out his mission at the end of Act 1, like where he goes to like blow up Arasaka Tower with Rogue and the rest of his group. And yeah, I just like the ending really made me appreciate Johnny. But I enjoyed him. I think Keanu did a really good job. I was watching some interviews with him yesterday, and I was just like, you know what? He didn't do this for a paycheck. I can tell. You can tell by the way he's acting, and he was just like, this seems legitimately interesting. And
I mean, I can tell you why he might have done it, but we'll get to that later.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I just feel like from hearing him and seeing his performance, I think he did it because out of a legitimate interest, and he actually had a good time doing it. Like, I'm sure the paycheck was nice, but like, it seemed like he also enjoyed it.
Keanu's a sick dude. And I feel like
I watched John Wick for the first time last night.
Good idea. I like those movies. They're okay.
Yeah, I'm on a Keanu binge now.
Yeah. Anytime Keanu doesn't have to talk, he does a really great job. I really feel. But no, he does play a good Silverhand. I do like Johnny Silverhand. The whole, especially in Act 1, where you actually do get to play how they like gone through and blew up Arasaka, was really sick. But I think part of it is almost like, okay, you now suddenly after, you know, an hour into this game, you're thrown into this like whole new plot. And this whole thing kind of takes a whole different direction, right? Like now you've got this whole new quest.
Before you were just trying to make it big and on the street.
Right.
Now,
which you weren't even clear. You weren't even clear about that to begin with, right? Like you really didn't have like a main goal. You were just in it to do this one job, right? And now, it's this whole other thing. But it was almost like felt like the whole character of V was just meant to be a vessel for you to experience the story that they really wanted to tell, which was Johnny
Silverhand's. Yeah,
and I kind of almost would have preferred that they just started you off as Johnny in 2020.
I think it would have been cool, but like I do like and again I feel like it's fully realized at the end of the game, like V and Johnny's conflict is fucking incredible. It's really cool.
I thought it was fucking annoying.
Really?
Yeah,
I liked it a lot.
I hated it.
I don't necessarily, not what I mean like when they bicker at each other. I find their bickering very real because like they do like go back and forth like a bunch of like dumbasses.
Yeah.
But like it's almost real. Like it just seems like Johnny's a cunt, you know?
Right.
He would call himself a cunt, and V's just kind of like, fuck you, dude. Like, or like, yeah, I see what you're saying, but like I found it to be very real. I feel like I was listening to an extremist that Johnny is talk to V, whoever your V is. Like I felt like that was really real, but like what solidified it to me again was just like the way the end plays out. And it's just like, you know, at first Johnny's trying to kill you, and now he's kind of like, you know, oh, you know, maybe I'll keep you alive. And then Johnny kind of like like has a tonal shift about you.
Right. Not just about you, but also like everyone else in his life from 50 years ago.
Right.
So like,
whether
he tries to like make make amends and tie up all his loose knots and everything, and like and does all that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just thought that part of the story, it overtook everything so suddenly, and tying it all back, you still never got a reason why you should hate Arasaka. You like throughout the entire story,
because
but that's not good enough.
See, but like
why should I
that's
feel?
What the world kind of tells you.
It doesn't though. It really no. I think it doesn't. It doesn't. It basically shows you what you're supposed to feel, but doesn't actually make you feel it. There was no build up to like, okay, well, what is Arasaka doing? Why did Johnny want to blow up Arasaka Tower? What is he trying to prove about the corporations? Where's all that? And that's why I think like it almost would have been better story wise, thematically, emotionally, for you to start as Johnny and realize, why are you going against Arasaka? What is wrong with the world? And then bring in V, and then have those two worlds collide.
Like a
prologue of Johnny,
and then
because the game's about Johnny Silverhand. It's not about V. V is inconsequential. That's why you play him, her, right? So the game's about Johnny. Started with Johnny. Why? Like, what is it about this storyline? This basically this roller coaster on rails, which is what the game is, that you're going to be embarking on. Why should you care like about what's happening? Like, yes, corpos are bad. Yes, there's a lot of poverty and bullshit that's happening on the streets of Night City. But like, what is it about this company specifically? Why should you hate them?
I think it's Soul Killer and the Relic. I think that's what it what they lean towards.
There is part of the ending does touch on that. They're like, okay, now this is now a problem, but that was never evident because you didn't know what the Relic was. You didn't even know what the Relic was. People have heard of this thing called the Relic apparently, but no one knew what it was. You didn't know,
right?
So I don't think that much was obvious either.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you just kind of assume that, okay, a super powerful company with military ties, and they're the bane, they're weapons manufacturers and everything. But why? I don't care. I'm just a nomad. I'm just a street kid. Why should I care about this company?
What I do like about Arasaka is I think how it reflects Cyberpunk, because I feel like Cyberpunk is a world where the Japanification of the world is a thing. You know what I mean by that?
And that was, even back with like the old book Neuromancer, where like they're in super high tech worlds, but they're still fighting with like katanas and ninja stars. That was kind of like the
that
whole
Japanese
fantasy
vibe, that theme is relevant. The neon signs, everything. Think about Ghost in the Shell, like with the like the signage and stuff, the Blade Runner, like all those influences. Like it's like this Japanification of everything. And Arasaka kind of being a company that like started during World War II and has only proliferated since then, I think is like, oh, this makes sense. There's a corp who has its hands in everything and maybe is kind of influencing the world in a way. I don't know. Like the culture.
Right. Well, like many corps do.
And then there's
Twitter, hint.
And then there's like Militech, who's like, one thing I really hate about this game is I wanted to know more about the United States, the new United States, what the fuck is going on with the world, what happened, like what more about Night City. I mean, I know it's, Adrian Knight makes Night City, but like, I wanted to know more about the world. Like, I really okay, like Night City is not a part of the new United States of America. They're not. But the world, like the East Coast kind of is, but I think the more you go west, the less cities are actually.
Yeah, I think it's implied that this is California, right?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, and I'm just like, I wanted to know, like, what about these corp wars? There's been fucking 4. Like, who are they?
And not even in the corp wars, but what about all the gang wars? And like all the gangs in Night City?
Right.
Like there's all these gangs in Night City that just don't mean anything.
The world
They
was
don't mean
there, but
anything.
I wanted to know more. And like this,
Right.
you know, you kind of get this like world compendium. I don't know if you read this.
I did not. I didn't get the
right, because I got it
anything.
physically.
Yeah.
So like this gives you like if, I mean like skimming over if you want real fast. It kind of like gives you an in-depth. It's like, oh, here's some like more background details of the game, but it's like it's not enough. It's like a quick paragraph or two.
Yeah, it goes
And
through all like the zones.
This
here.
comes with the collector's edition. I haven't read this yet, but it's called it's a Nomad's Guide to Life City. It looks like a nomad took this book and kind of like wrote in it, and it's a lot more
That's
detailed.
pretty sick.
And then there's the art book, and I'm like, yeah, it's like I'll read this stuff because I want to know more about the world, but like that's not how you should. This should be ancillary,
Right.
not necessarily required to learn about the lore.
It should be
and the
ancillary.
stuff.
It should be if you want to really dive in and nerd out on it, you can.
You can,
but
but
you don't
the
have
game
to.
does enough for you
The
to
game
understand.
should do enough for you to understand.
Yeah.
I don't think it does.
No, it
and
doesn't.
yeah, especially like with Night City, like okay, you've got a very graphically impressive, great looking world. It's really fun to drive through the city. I think that's really fun, even though the driving controls are god awful.
Real quick,
it's still fun.
the cars though.
The cars are sick.
Whatever team did the cars, kudos, because the
Yes.
cars are awesome.
Cars
I
are
don't
sick.
care that you can't customize them, but like every car you buy, the interior looks really cool. The exterior looks really cool. There are some, you know, you get some same makes and models, but I think that's cool. There's like this consistency. It's like, oh, the Quadra is a make and model of a car that
Right,
you can
yeah.
buy in this world, and they, you know, oh, here's like like 3 or 4 variants of it, and they all
Right,
look
it's
pretty
got
unique.
like in that sense, that's what really I was like, okay, this is kind of just like GTA. Like
Right.
GTA has those variants that are meant to kind of look like real car brands, but they are like brands. You know, like when you get a car from this brand, you know what to expect. It's like a performance vehicle. You know, it goes really fast. It's expensive. It looks cool.
We were talking about
Whatever,
the
you know?
like the Kusanagi, which is
Yeah.
definitely a reference to Major Kusanagi from Ghost in the Shell.
Yep.
And it also looks like the bike from Akira.
Of course, because you have to.
Right. What
Why,
were you
yeah.
you mentioned before the cast about like like all these little Easter eggs.
Yes.
And there are a
Yeah.
ton.
So Jackie, when he buys his motorcycle, the Arch motorcycle is actually a real brand of motorcycles in California. And just guess who is a co-founder of Arch?
Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
So
you know,
they-
now that
so
you say
he-
it, I
he
know
got
they did a
huge-
bike.
He
for
got
this
a
game.
huge plug for Arch motorcycles, obviously being a centerpiece, arguably the coolest motorcycle in the game. I think
Oh, no,
is
that
the
one.
Arch bike. Nah, the Arch bike is sick, dude.
I like that one the
Like
best.
this, no
Probably
way.
because I was like, yeah, I'm gonna take 40 minutes to do like the Akira photo shoot with my bike.
Those are cool, but like that's been done. You know, like Akira did that. The
Yeah.
Arch bike, I think, is the perfect blend of like it's got the old like it looks like a gas motorcycle.
Yeah, it looks real for sure.
But it's like super high tech. When you sit in and when you go first person, like the HUD comes up on like the windscreen and everything, and it's like, oh, this is like so sick.
yeah.
I wish I had that.
There's a
It's so
ton
cool.
of there's like I don't know how many Easter eggs you find. You can find a Batmobile.
Oh wow, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
so there in the Badlands, there's this there's a cave you can kind of drive on Pan Am's Quest. You go in there,
Yeah.
You can kind of drive through it. It's in a shipping container in there, so you
Get
go in
out.
there and you read this thing, and it's like the guy's called Merkman instead of Batman, and it's Batman's origin, MO origin, like on the shard, and then you get this fastest car in the game, which for some reason wouldn't spawn for me, and I was really annoyed, but the car looks fucking awesome, but
I
it
might have to
only
go back and
spawns
find
between
that.
like 11 p.m. and 12 a.m. something like that. I'm like, I don't know why this isn't spawning.
Weird. Yeah,
but
it is
it's a
weird.
secret car, and then there's like a Fallout 3 reference. You can find like some like LARPers in the desert, like with like a Vault 101 thing. There's a Tears in Rain reference from Blade Runner. Literally, it's Roy Batty sitting on top of the roof in the rain with the bird dead, and it like you go up and like you enter the building, and there's the
Right.
origami bird that Priss, I think, is it Priss or Roy Batty that makes that origami bird?
Don't know. I didn't see Blade Runner.
Okay, so
Mistake. I should.
I'll walk you through it, and especially for those who know Blade Runner. Yeah, so like the origami bird is like sitting on the desk, and you go up the elevator, and like no matter what time of day it is, you go up and it's nighttime and it's raining, and have you seen that scene in Blade Runner where he's like he talks about he's like I've seen things you people wouldn't believe, and he talks about how like he's been in these wars and he's seen this shit, and And then he's like, all these moments will be lost in time, like tears and rain. And then he goes, time to die, and he dies. And he's sitting there cross-legged, and he has a dove in the movie, and there's a bird in his lap, and he's just kind of like this with all the tattoos. And I was like, this is cool. I was like, as somebody who likes Blade Runner, I was like, this is dope. There's also a Mad Max Fury Road Easter egg. There's a Terminator Easter egg. Like the Mad Max one, you find, you know how Furiosa has that convoy?
Right.
Well, it's that truck and Mad Max's car, and they're all just dead outside of it.
Oh, that's cool.
It's totally
that's
it.
cool.
And you pick up like the shard, and it's like like an amalgam of like Furiosa and like certain names and stuff. And there's a ton of stuff like that. But this game is riddled
I went
with that.
searching for some of it. I don't know if did you get a chance to explore the river of garbage that's in the game? It's just this like giant like lake
in the
of
Badlands.
garbage. Yeah, but it's just like it looks like literally a river of garbage.
Yeah, there's a Crystal Skull reference. I don't know if you found that.
See, I knew there was going to be something.
A guy coming out of a fridge because it's like Indiana Jones in the fridge of the nuclear bomb. You know that?
I didn't find it, but I went looking for it. I see. I'm glad that there is something in there because I knew like okay they wouldn't have like made this hugely traversable giant river of garbage with like all this like shit in it if they weren't gonna hide something in it. Like they gotta do something cheeky with it, right? So I'm glad they did something. I didn't find it, so I wasted like 20 minutes of my life.
It's there. Yeah, that part is really, you can go back to where you got resurrected and find Dexter Deshawn and get his gun.
No,
yeah,
that would be sick.
He's just there. He's just dead.
Very cool.
Yeah. So how do just kind of like I guess jumping into Act 2, where the game kind of opens up. We talked a ton about the game, but how did you feel about like the main quest and stuff? And I guess we can talk about like Judy and Pan Am and romances and River Ward and whatever.
I think the main quests were great. I think like all the story, all the characters, like with Judy and Evelyn, some of the best acted characters in the game.
Real quick about Evelyn. I think Evelyn really plays into what we were talking about, like Cyberpunk being sexy, but not like instead it's dirty.
Right.
When you first meet Evelyn, I was like, huh, she must be like some higher up. She looks really nice and
yeah, she's not.
Yeah, and like something about her, I'm like, she definitely doesn't. She is just a fucking whore. No offense, she's just a prostitute.
She's like. Well, she's in the Moxies or whatever they are.
The
right?
Moxies, yeah.
Yeah.
But
she's like a high class escort.
Right.
So she's like
But then again she isn't because she works at Clouds and stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Maybe I'm judging.
Maybe she's an expensive one.
Right. Maybe I'm judging her, but I was so surprised about how inconsequential she actually is to everything.
Mm-hmm.
But she seems so important. One real quick thing too about that when you do the brain dance of her with Yorinobu. Adam Smasher telling her, "You look like he's like, what does he say? You look like a fuckable piece of meat." I was like, Jesus Christ!
Yeah, it was pretty.
I was like, oh my God!
It's pretty savage.
Look at this guy.
No, but okay. First of all, brain dancing. Holy shit!
Did you like that?
Yeah,
I thought it was cool.
I'm kind of upset that they didn't do more with it, and they did
I
have
think it's
more.
fair enough.
They did have more
if
brain
lot,
dancing, but I think
like
that one scene, the first brain dance that you do,
piece of meat,
like that, like kind of blew my mind. Like I was like, oh, this is selling it for me. See, like that is what I expected.
That's like net running.
That is net running. See, like that's what I expected to be in like what hacking is, and like being having some kind of like fighting in like the virtual space or like within like your opponent's mind or something like that. Like that's more of what I expected like the game to have, and it didn't. But brain dancing was sick. I'm glad that they did a really good job with that.
A lot of people who got like previews long time ago said brain dancing was kind of lame, and I'm like, nah, I like those kind of portions of games.
No,
very investigative,
very cool.
And that's kind of the thing where I'm like, V is kind of doing things that I like, but like who V is not necessarily like he's not an investigator. He's not like an Adam Jensen type. And that's kind of where I go back to like I wish Cyberpunk was more sexier. I wish V was not somebody of import, but just like not a merc. I don't know. I just feel like it's an easy archetype to like put a open world.
Well, yeah, you're like a nobody, right? Like,
right.
It would have been cool again if you just were Johnny Silverhand, and now you had to survive 50 years later in the body of your avatar, which is V, but you technically are Johnny Silverhand because I feel like that is most of the game. But anyway, back to Act 2. Brain dancing was sick. When you first open that elevator door and you see Adam Smasher, that was like, Whoa.
Yeah, again, he's like yeah, again, he calls people cunts a lot. He calls Rogue a cunt at the end of the game.
But it's not only his demeanor, which is super iconic. I think like that totally works.
He is this like literal like fucking unit.
He's a tank. He's a fucking tank. That's the only way.
His name is literally Adam, Adam, like a name Smasher. Like
it's awesome. Yeah, he's just like, imagine like a mech warrior,
but a human being,
but like a person. That's like what Adam Smasher is. It's awesome. It was a great idea. Really well executed character.
But the line, I think, like I thought it was like very like whoa, but like that's his character, man. Yeah, I really dug
because
the way
they
decided to make him.
When you can with a flick of a finger just decimate anybody that you want, why would you be nice?
Right.
Like,
what I was really interested in, it's like, okay, like how does he know Johnny? Like what how does this play into this? Like, oh, he's like, and you can Google
you hear Johnny is like, is that Adam Smasher? Oh.
Yeah. And like Rogue knows who he is, and it's like, oh, who is this guy? And they don't go too much into him. I think they go like just enough, but like a little more could have been going on. But I keep interrupting you. Go ahead.
No, I think like the brain dancing was a really good way to get you involved in the story in a very well paced way, because you are left to discover different pieces of like what's going on here. Like that scene, like to just because of the brain dance and how it was set up, I understand so much more of like what was going on in that scene than any other part of the game, just because of like what it does to your connection to it. Because now you have like this great foundation for what's like going to happen and who the characters are and what's going on, and it makes it like so much more interesting. So when you actually go through that level and you're like, okay, like that is awesome. I love that whole mission was great. I thought that was awesome. The escape with out of Arasaka Tower after you witness I forget his name, kill
Yorinobu kills. Hold on, it's there. Saburo Arasaka.
Thank you.
It's Yorinobu, Hanako, and Saburo Arasaka.
Right. Yeah, Saburo is like the emperor.
Yeah, the dad.
And
the old
super cool scene. Didn't expect it. Yeah, and you really do get a sense like because you're like hidden behind this, like I don't even know what the fuck
it's
it is.
TV.
Like, is it really just like a TV?
Yeah, it's a big TV screen.
Well, you're hidden behind this TV screen with Jackie, who's like clutching this briefcase with the relic in it. That it's counting down, like you've got 98% whatever life on it or whatever, and you're like stuck in this room with like the most two powerful people in the world, and like Takamura looks you dead in the eye, and like
it's like oh god.
It's no, that was like a really suspenseful moment, and because like okay, Adam Smasher is like right down the elevator. And you're like, oh no, like this is gonna be bad.
Yeah,
and you can really feel it, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, and then after that, we talked about Johnny, and then that's when the game really opens up, and you can do Evelyn stuff, and kind of explore with Judy a little bit more, and then you meet Pan Am. We both romance Pan Am. I think Trio. He's been in chat. He's been saying some stuff. I think Trio romance Judy. I actually am surprised about how little and how much you're restricted to do in relationships. So Pan Am is only straight. Judy is only a lesbian.
Yeah, I think like, well, there's a lot of like backlash with like a lot of the like LGBT community for this game for like some of the depictions they did with the ads, which like were a little obscene.
It's like I see where those are coming from, but I also didn't understand it because like nobody's ever really sat down and like explained why that, like the mix it up ad.
Yeah, which it was like it's because like it's 2077, fucking dumb. It's 2077, and it's like you can kind of just do whatever you want with your body. So you'd think that there might be a little bit more representation with like people who are augmenting stuff, like putting dicks on their arms and like whatever you want to do. And it's like, okay, so the representation that is like some like whack ass like gaudy ad for like some energy drink.
Like hot looking girl
like I get
with a
it.
one piece and a giant
I
dick
get why it might be a little upsetting.
Chest.
I think they could have done it a little more creatively. But at the same time, the whole like kind of culture there is like fuck you. That's the whole like game is supposed to be terrible. 2770 is supposed to be awful. Like it's not supposed to be good.
Yeah.
Like so like I get it, and I also like it's what it is,
Yeah, and yeah, I liked the game is very sexual, like all the ads and stuff, and I kind of like it in a way, but then again, going back to it, I wish it was sexier, not dirtier.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Like it's dirty. It's
they
not
definitely
sexy.
make it very evident that it's gutter trash scum. But that's like I think it's part of the story to tell, right? Like, you know, it's the wealth inequality and like what people are able to afford and like what entertainment people go for because sex sells and everything, and it just escalates into all that.
How do we get on this point?
Act 2. And
oh, the romances.
Romances.
Yeah, so like River Ward is only straight, and then you can romance Carrie, who's gay, and like that's it.
Right.
And you can fuck some prostitutes.
And yeah, going back to that, you know, like, why would it have been weird for them to just not lock the whole gender romancing thing? Like,
right.
Yeah, like why? I'm still a little confused why they did that.
Right. It seemed strange.
Like if I wanted River to be gay, why couldn't River be gay? You know, like
right. Like I understand, like that's not how the way life works.
I know, but it's in life. It's a video game. Yeah.
Yeah, like looking at The Witcher, like this is kind of weird, but I really like the way The Witcher does sex. I think the sex in Witcher is super romantic. It's very romanticized, and Cyberpunk is not romanticized at all. And like Witcher can kind of be like Game of Thrones in a way, but it's also very not. It's very romanticized. Like the sex is very sexy, but it's not like smut. It's nice, I guess.
I think smut is probably what most people wanted.
See, yeah,
I don't care anyway. I don't play video games to get horny.
Right. But like, I think the way Witcher does sex, like I'm like I like this. Like I like this is like I don't know. It's just it feels nice. Like I don't know. I think right, but like again in Witcher you have Yennefer, Triss, and then from the DLC you can romance Shawnee. But like, yeah, I feel like the sex in that is just, it feels like, it feels like an actual relationship, not like you've had like a few conversations with this person, you get to fuck them.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of a theme with all of this game in Cyberpunk. It feels very rushed.
And
like,
yeah,
you don't really get the opportunity to build up like an emotional connection with Pan Am before.
Right, I didn't
before you were just literally launched into the dialogue option to just start feeling her up.
Right,
like, I didn't even mean it.
I didn't feel like I had emotional connection to Pan Am or Judy, and like I just think I don't know if it's just the way the quests were, and it's just like I don't like with Mass Effect, like I like Tali as a romance option. I feel emotionally connected to her. You know, in the game, but like I don't get that with this game. I get that with The Witcher, and I'm like, you guys did it before. Like I'm kind of like, how'd you miss the mark? This is what I kind of don't get.
I haven't played enough of The Witcher, and maybe haven't. I'm not sure what the whole process is for like the romance options in The Witcher, but I feel like. And maybe this is correct. It's sort of because in Cyberpunk, like it's something that it just launched. You don't really have to try. It's just something that kind of comes with the story.
You don't really have to try in The Witcher.
Yeah, it just happens.
But also,
like,
Geralt's
there are some games
falls into that.
Yeah, because like that's kind of he had previous relationships and everything.
Yennefer is like Geralt's true love, and Triss is the girl that comes along when he loses his memory and he gets feelings for, and he has a different relationship with both of them, and they also both know each other.
Yeah, so there's a lot of context there that set it up.
Right.
So if you're following The Witcher,
and then the game, not just the setup, but the game also kind of like you know.
But I think like it's a trend with like CD Projekt Red in general. I think to just have that just come with it. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to try to put an effort to get those scenes. It just kind of comes with it. You know, you go through it and it's like, okay, here's what we're doing now.
Right.
So like, but there are other games that I think do it a little different. Where like Mass Effect, you actually have to try. Like on your off time between missions, you have to talk to people and do different things and do quests that are like. Well, I guess it is kind of similar, but
no, but like you kind of have like Judy's quest is like the only thing like. Judy's a little different. Pan Am is the only way through her you do the avocados thing. And the ending is actually locked behind her romance.
Yes.
If you are a girl, so real quick, what ending did you do?
I took the Corpo ending.
Good. I'm glad because I did too. But one of the ending is I'm sure you noticed that like you can call Pan Am and have Pan Am help you out, and you leave with the avocados. That is not a thing if you don't romance her. It's literally not an option.
Right.
And there's also a Corpo ending. I didn't fucking save Takamura in Act 2, which I didn't know you could fucking do.
Oh, I didn't even know. Yeah, I didn't save him.
You can save him. I didn't even know he fucking died. until like
I just assumed he wasn't dead.
So you can save him, and he's in the corpo ending, and I gotta go fucking replay the game to get that achievement, which I'm kind of annoyed about.
That's dumb, but whatever.
Yeah,
I thought he wasn't dead. I was sure that he was going to come back.
No, yeah, he's dead.
Okay.
I didn't trust me. I was the same way. I'm like, where's Takamura?
I thought for sure he wasn't dead. I was like, this guy can't die.
Yeah, and he comes back in the ending, which makes sense. But like all the other endings you can get pretty much just by playing the game. Those are the only two I noticed that are locked, and I'm pretty sure I did them all besides Takamura's thing. Anyway, I was
sick character. I really like Takamura.
Yeah, he's cool. Yeah, and like most of the side quests with the characters are just kind of like, it's not like they're crew members or like shipmates or companions. They're just kind of people in the world. You do their quest and you either romance them or you don't.
Right.
And like that's it. You don't go.
It's like you pretty much have to try to do.
It's
one
not
or
like
the other, though.
let me call Judy to have a conversation
Yeah.
to like initiate like a romance. Like that's not a thing.
Right. It
Like,
just
you
happens.
can call Judy and
like,
she has like two options.
and yeah, you brought up a good point. Like a lot of that is it's locked behind story that you want to play. Like I wanted to do the Aldecados thing because I thought that was sick. I liked the whole Nomad story and what the whole kind of thing that they do. Like Panem aside, Panem's a cool character.
Yeah.
But I didn't care about.
Yeah, I wasn't into the romance.
Virtual smut. I don't care. I just wanted to, play the whole thing.
I also thought the
and
sex
see.
scene, I was like, I this is kind of hot, I guess. Like I'm fucking.
As soon as I got in the Basilisk and saw her coming with me and she didn't have her jacket on, I'm like, oh, like we're gonna have sex in here. And I was like, oh great, like this. They're gonna do this.
I was like,
okay.
I could have cared about this more.
Yeah,
This is
like,
pretty much what I thought.
They made it so obvious.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think those, like all of the extra quest lines they did were awesome, and like the animations on those characters were super good. All the acting was top notch. Story in general was great. Story is the best thing this game has going for it. It is a really good story, and they had a lot of source material to go from to do it. But if you're looking for like much more deeper understanding and immersion of the Cyberpunk universe, and all of these like more philosophical ideas that go behind it, you're not gonna get it.
Yeah.
And you're probably not even. It's not even worth reading the shards or whatever the hell they are, the data things. It's not even worth doing that. If you really want that, just go read like an actual Cyberpunk book, because that's like where you're gonna get all that lore. This is just, you're along for the ride. You're on the roller coaster. You go to the special points of interest in the Night City theme park, and you do the quests, and like that's it. It's fun. It's good, but like that's it. Still a sick game.
Yeah.
Still a sick game.
I guess we haven't really like laid out our points. Like I do enjoy this game a lot. Like I guess when we started off and I said the media kind of slammed this game unfairly, like I agree with it. I like it. It's not a bad game. It's not. It's fucking buggy as hell and it's got a lot of developmental issues, but hey, so do most of these AAA games. Like I'm not trying to like excuse CD Projekt Red for what they did to this game, because they've gotten themselves in a situation, like for sure.
No, yeah, they
and it sucks, and I feel bad for them, because I think like with Witcher 3 being like one of my like favorite games of all time, and a game that I think is like almost perfect. Cyberpunk was like the developer, the exemplar of game development, and now they are the exact opposite. But guess what? Bethesda was there with 76.
True. Yeah, I think
Rockstar has been in weird spots with Red Dead and like the crunch culture that a lot of articles were coming about. This happens with almost every big company. They all have BioWare. They all have these fall from graces, and like it sucks that it happened so soon with CD Projekt Red, but like it's not like this hasn't happened before, and I feel like we need to remember that as gamers. Like we've all been burned by these companies who churn out these big fucking games. They all do it.
I don't think this game was churned out. First of all, we know that it wasn't, right? So that a lot of this was like a bit of like a labor of true genuine passion for the series. They wanted to put out a Cyberpunk game. It's not like and they're not doing any shady practices. They're not selling you microtransactions yet. They're not doing anything, like EA style. So like what they had a rush launch.
Two things.
Crazy year.
I think fuck this game.
Kind of it fucked it.
COVID,
right?
And the fact that next gen was pretty much forced upon them.
Yes.
Think about it. They had to develop for not 2 consoles, but 4 and PC. That's crazy, especially with this level of game. Like they really got fucked, and it's not really their own fault. a fault of their own. I mean,
yeah, I mean, it does kind of suck because you had this game that was great, and I feel like probably a lot of development effort was just trying to make it like this this tweener. You know, like it's technically a last gen game, but it runs better on new gen. And we can't optimize for everything.
Did you see the 5-minute video they put out, kind of talking about like what happened? They put out a video recently. They're I guess their executive producer, or whoever, maybe the CEO, I forget his name. You might recognize his face. He's kind of been in stuff before. But he was kind of talking about how developing this game on next gen made the last gen worse. Because they were outfitting it for next gen, but also like trying to make last gen work, and it just wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, so much of the visual fidelity is tied to ray tracing. So of course, like it's not going to look right on last gen.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer.
The game does look nice, but it's not beautiful. Like I was playing Gears 5 the other day, and they came out with a DLC that I was playing, and I'm like, this game's fucking gorgeous. And this is, I mean, it's up to res for Series X. Like it has the official seal of approval. This is an Xbox Series X game. Here you go. Where Cyberpunk doesn't, and I just kind of look at both of the games, and I'm like, I wish this was better looking, man. Like it's like
there are definitely some moments.
I think where you see it is where you look at Night City and go,
yeah, which is a lot of places, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's just like, I wish this looked better, man. This would have been so cool.
There are a few places that you really does kind of like take you a bit. Like sometimes when you spawn into the fast travel stuff, they put those in locations that have kind of nice scenic views. So you'll spawn in one in like Kabuki, and it's got like the river and the skyline, and you spawn in at night, and it's like whoa, this is cool. Like nice job.
Loading times, how was it on PC?
Well, it depends. I have a super fast M2, which is the same stuff that's in these things.
Nothing on the consoles.
Yeah, it was
like almost nothing, which is I think still impressive. Like
no, it is. I mean, it's the
and you don't
that's
really
better
load
tech.
all that much besides getting into the game and fast traveling. You don't do a lot of loading, so props. I feel like again, Cyberpunk doesn't get enough. Not that they deserve a ton of credit, but like this game, the loading works. Where you have a complaints with like Red Dead 2 on last generation, fuck me, that game took long to load, especially online. And on current gen now, it's like instant. It's just like Jesus Christ. Like,
yeah,
it's such a difference.
I think especially with this gen and the way like memory hardware is taken off, that's now a new standard.
Yeah.
Like if you see a loading screen, that's not right.
Right. Like the solid states are pretty much taking care of these loading screens that Red Dead Online's were like 2 minutes.
That's crazy.
2 minutes.
That's insane.
That's nuts. And Cyberpunk's a big game. You kind of feel like it. Like I don't know. I can't speak to the loading on the One and the PS4, but I
mean, I can imagine it's kind of nightmarish.
Yeah.
I
want to talk about the ending. Is there anything else that we kind of want to talk about before we kind of go to the ending and then wrap up? I feel like we talked about it a lot.
Yeah, we definitely talked about it a lot. I jumped around a bit. But
but I feel like we've covered a lot.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Is there anything that I wanted to talk about that I haven't, and then nothing is jumping out?
I don't think so. I mean, I think and maybe a trend with CD Projekt Red that you were kind of touching on in that how they handled the Witcher games. And, I had this problem with The Witcher, and it's like the mechanics of The Witcher 3 and the combat. Like I just couldn't stand it. Like it's part of the reason why it was so hard for me to.
I feel like a lot of people have their critique of Witcher, so you're not alone.
I'm not into it.
Yeah.
With this game, very similar. Like the story's really good. They aced that. Witcher, great story. I love the way it's told and everything, and all the dynamic actors involved, and the dialogue is like actually well written for a game. Wow, who would have thought?
Oh,
actually, it's really well written. But yeah, they kind of drop the ball with like actually making a fun to play game. Like CD Projekt Red. Do you guys want to just make a movie? Like I think like that's kind of what
that's a Kojima.
What the next? I think that's the next ball. Link up with Kojima.
Let's make a movie.
Yeah, I think that's what you want to do.
You know what's funny?
Because that's what I really enjoyed the most about this.
You know
game.
What's funny? We don't know what's next for this company for the first time since 2013.
Right.
That's when this game was announced. That was almost fucking 10 years
earlier than that.
I remember.
Well, maybe it was announced then. But they've been working on it.
I just found two things I remembered. Let me talk to the points. Sort of like interrupt yours. Sorry. The radio stations. I like the music.
Oh yeah. How do we forget that?
The radio stations. So you can play them on Spotify. They're all there. All 4 volumes of all the music. I feel like the way the radio stations are set up make that music feel shitty. But like listening to it outside of the game, it's cool.
Yeah.
Like the radio stations are just like Spotify playlists. They just play songs, and then like occasionally a newscaster will break in, and occasionally there's an Easter egg. Mike Pondsmith, the maker of Cyberpunk, will come on and be a character and kind of talk about some things.
Huh.
Yeah, and I never got that Easter egg.
I like that as an Easter egg. I think I had pretty high expectations for the music, because
all the tracks are original.
Yeah,
like
I know.
on the radio.
Which I'm
and again, like you can go on Spotify when you get home. You can see the in-game band who did it, and then the actual artist. I was like, this
very
is cool.
I do want to dive in and really see who they got to do that, because I think especially the last like few years, 4 or 5 years, the whole like synthwave. I mean, you've been on it now.
Oh yeah,
synthwave, 80s retro stuff.
Midnight Jacket. I love synthwave, and that's kind of where the sexiness of the genre kind of comes from.
It's gotten huge lately, and there's a ton of these artists out there who are really big in the genre, and I was really hoping to see a couple of like names that I had in mind come on and do some music here, and none of them were on. So I was a little upset by that. I'm like, how could you miss that?
And I'm curious if it's like maybe culturally, like, they're Polish. We got to remember that.
Yeah, true. Yeah, there might be some laws around, music and stuff. Or maybe
not even that, but I'm like, it's a different culture.
Right.
And I was thinking maybe that has something to do with why people didn't like Cyberpunk. Like, it's not made by an American company. And we can't act like all countries and all cultures are exactly like America, PC-wise. Look at Japan. It's a great example. They love boobs, and they let you know. It's
well said.
Look at Kojima, man. Look at what he does. Like it's clear. Like it's just a different. Like you don't have to like it, but like understand that like there's probably some like cultural reasons that things are the way they are. Doesn't mean it's right, and just I think it's something to think about, and especially with this game. Witcher is literally Poland's bread and butter. It's what like not what Poland is known for, but like it's a big deal to the Polish people.
Yeah,
the
a lot
Witcher,
of it is
this IP. Andrei,
right? Because so much of the folklore and stuff is tied into it.
Right. So like it makes sense that they would get that right. Cyberpunk is not a Polish property. It's American. Mike Pondsmith is American. It's not necessarily like and something that's been around for super long or something that is super popular. I feel like the first time I heard of Cyberpunk was the first time I watched the announcement trailer. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. This is like Deus Ex. I'm in. The other point, radio stations. What was the other one? Shit. Was it Mike Pondsmith? No.
You already got the Easter egg on him.
No, it wasn't that one. Fuck. Oh man. I've been really bad lately. I've done this like 4 or 5 times where I have this like point in the back of my head and I always forget it. And I've done it at work.
You'll think of it.
I hope.
You'll think of it.
What were you talking about before I brought up radio stations?
I don't know. It's been so much.
Great.
Oh, mechanics of Witcher 3 and how Kojima should make a movie with them instead, because it seems like they're really good at the storytelling, not so good at making an actual video game. Sorry guys, but it's just not. It's just okay.
All right, it's gone. So anything else from you before we talk about the ending? Because I'm hyped to talk about the ending. Because I beat it. I literally did them all. The ones I could.
I don't know anything else about the game. I think the levels are sick. The act to see it all goes back, like the actual elements of the game that are on the ride that you're riding, that are on the roller coaster that's on the rails, are freaking incredible. Like the parade float level.
Yeah.
I thought that was sick. That's one of the only places in the game where there's any verticality other than the H8 and H10 apartment buildings.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. I loved the design of that. I wish like more of the natural game had verticality like that, and it just doesn't. So you have all these skyscrapers and you can't go in any of them. And there's doors that say open and you can't open them.
All right, let's get to the ending. So what did you think? So you chose the Corpo ending, which is a good way to put it.
Well, I'm not sure if it's the Corpo ending or the background Corpo ending, but it's the Arasaka ending.
Yeah. Here's the thing about the endings. They all kind of align. The Street Kid one is kind of the one where, you get to the top. The Corpo one is the one where you side with Hanako, where you go with her. And then the Nomad one is the one that's behind Pan Am's ending. And then there's kind of variations of them a little bit, and then Johnny's ending. Right. So yeah, you went with Hanako, and did you let Johnny take over your body or no?
No.
Okay. So you got to the space station and they moved the chip.
Did the whole Rubik's Cube thing.
How fucking regretful were you during that? Because I was like, I fucked up.
Oh no, I was a little regretful. Well, first of all, I didn't know there were multiple endings because I didn't read anything about the game.
Yeah.
So I thought that this
I knew there were multiple endings.
I thought that this was what was going to happen.
No. Definitely not.
But also, and I did read about the other endings in the game. I think what a lot of people didn't catch about that ending is what the effects for everyone else were because of what you did.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you really have to read it. Yeah, like because when you're in the hospital bed and you've got this TV in the hospital room and it's showing all this news and you're in between days. You're falling asleep, waking up, and there's different news happening.
And you're seeing blue.
Yes, and you're seeing a little bit of blue and purple.
Yeah.
Which is funny. I made a couple memes about the Rubik's Cube because it just says press E to solve. And you're just holding this Rubik's Cube. It's like really funny. What I thought like really for me wrapped up a lot of the game was that yes, like you were siding with Arasaka, but you finally, and to me, like trying to seek for this reason to not like Arasaka for the whole game. Finally, it brought that to the spotlight.
Right.
It brought like, okay, Arasaka's doing some whack shit, and now there's riots.
Now
and
it's
people
even
are
more
rising
whack.
up. Yeah, people are rising up against it, and now it's not just Johnny and the terrorists and little old V. It's the whole world.
Arasaka essentially like turned themselves into a god.
Yeah,
Saburo Arasaka literally is like he was already living forever. Mm-hmm. He was already like more than 100 years old, and now he's like immortal because he did exactly what Johnny could do for V, which is take over his body, put the chip in, and he just takes over. And you keep doing that and doing that and doing that and doing that.
And Johnny never dies.
Right.
And Arasaka never dies.
Right.
Yeah, and it's just on and on.
And I was just like I'm watching this news and I'm like, oh, they're putting me through tests. I was like, Hanako fucked me so fucking hard right now. I'm like, I think I made the wrong choice here. And I kind of thought, it seemed like the obvious choice.
I knew that it was gonna get
I was like an idiot. I was like, I worked for Arasaka, and it's kind of like, it's funny. I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of Corpo. I worked for Arasaka. Kind of makes sense. I would have some trust for them in a way. But yeah, like, and then you kind of like you do these tests over and over and over and over, and like you kind of like V just like kind of breaks down, and then you have the option to either go back to Earth, live for 6 months, and die, which is a theme throughout all the endings. All the endings, if Johnny doesn't take over, you die. That's it.
Wow. So either Johnny lives...
You escape with the Nomads, you die in 6 months. You become head of the afterlife for when you let Johnny take over and go with Rogue. V becomes Rogue. He dies in 6 months.
Huh.
And then with this one, same thing. You can get let go and die in 6 months.
Right.
So whatever you do, V dies,
which
is interesting as hell. There's no good ending. I always
thought V was going to die through the whole thing.
I mean, it makes
pretty
sense.
evident. I mean, you get these relic malfunctions every fucking 10 seconds you're playing the game.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, you're dying.
So you chose to go back to Earth.
Yeah.
I would like to see what they do if they put you under this program, because I was like, fuck this. I was like, fuck this. Like, I'm just like, there's no way this is a good idea.
Not knowing how the whole game was going to play out. First, I thought by helping Hanako, I was just going to get inside Arasaka. I didn't necessarily like want to help the Arasaka family like do this whole chip thing. I just wanted to get inside Arasaka.
Right. And
so I'm curious, like, if you chose not to help her, do you like barge in on that board meeting and just kill everybody?
No.
That would have been a sick scene.
So
if in that very same board meeting you just got
what's funny? That ending totally makes Alt Cunningham's thing irrelevant.
Really?
Yeah. You don't. Yeah. There's nothing to do with Alt in that ending. You don't. Use
yeah. I remember that. Yeah. I almost forgot about because that's how insignificant it was. The whole thing with the Voodoo Boys and like the whole.
So in Johnny's ending, he takes over the body, goes to Rogue. Rogue's like not in on it, but she's like, okay. All right. What do we need to do? She's like, we need to get to Mikoshi. Okay. And like you have sex with her, and she hashes a plan like as you're sleeping. Like she has this whole scheme, and she like lays it out, and she's you and like one other dude, and you storm Arasaka. You come in, so you come in right where that level with the jungle area with the board meeting is. So you come in on that board meeting, but you don't kill them. You come in on it, and they run away. You like don't land exactly there. Like there's some, the plan doesn't go according, but like you get there. You go in, you fight Atom Smasher, and then you plug Alt into the system, and she like takes over Arasaka Tower. And
that's interesting.
And you get to Mikoshi, you plug in V, kind of drifts into cyberspace, and then you go to cyberspace where in our ending, the original ending, or my original ending, Johnny Silverhand like hates you.
Yeah, he calls you like a fucking coward and all this stuff.
In this one, you see V because you're Johnny, and you kind of have a similar reaction where V is like, "Fuck, man," like I'm dead, and then Johnny sometimes can be like, "Dude, V, like just take your body," or you could be like, "No, fuck you, I'm gonna live." So you can do one of those two things. You can let V live, and he becomes Rogue, and he becomes the top dog. So that whole the Street Kid ending.
Mm-hmm. I think like in
the Johnny Silverhand ending is fucking interesting because he takes
over.
He takes over V's body, and he wakes up like in this like apartment, and he just like walks out, and some kid is like helping him out doing something, and he kind of like likes his Johnny Silverhand's music and stuff. He doesn't know it's Johnny, and he's trying to play guitar, and I guess Johnny kind of sees something in him, and he asks him to take him drive him a few places. One, he buys a guitar and gives it to him. The second place is Rogue and V's graves, and he like puts V's bullet necklace in his grave and Rogue's gun, puts it in there. Then he leaves, gets on a bus, just leaves. Leaves everything behind. Like, also to the point where like he sees this kid that's like driving around smoking a cigarette, takes it from him. Dude, don't do that. Like, he's totally changed.
Right. Well, yeah.
I mean, it's really interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't expect
that's a pretty interesting ending. Well, I mean, because he was given, and you saw it before, like when he started to change his tone a little bit, realized that he was given a second chance at life. So he, I guess, having some emotion and,
right.
humanity, he realized, oh, V just sacrificed his life to like let me live again, so I got to take care of this body and
right.
like, help
and
people.
He really changes.
Yeah,
like
right.
he gets on a bus and
Very
leaves
cute.
Night City.
Great ending.
The Nomad one is
probably
what you think.
would have liked that one best, but the problem with that is that whole dialogue between you and Johnny in the moment where you make that decision, he's a dick, and I still don't have a reason to hate Arasaka. So what am I supposed to do? It's like they walked you into choosing.
I don't like how they like pit you, like they really pit you against Johnny if you
they pit you against Johnny
if
and
you do the Corbo ending.
Right. Yeah, they do. They force you to.
Yeah. I didn't like that. I was like, "Oh no, Johnny."
Yeah, it's not good.
Come on, man.
And I don't know. I thought they really kind of they pigeonholed you into like you really have no reason to not want to try and save your own life.
But even if you do the Johnny takeover ending, like V isn't necessarily a dick. Like he definitely like, even though like V fucking's like, "Dude, you can't do this. Like you fucking lied." Like he gets really mad at you. And and like Johnny just sort of like doesn't like you. There's a few times you have something to say to him, but like a lot of the time you just don't say anything. And like I guess he kind of just like accepts the decision. But even though V was mad at him at the end, he doesn't like. Now that Johnny's in V's body, like he doesn't see him as like an enemy. It's interesting. Like he takes him over, maybe a little maliciously, but like he's like, yeah, like V, like I got here because of V. Like he's still kind of like sees him as a friend, or like, has some harbors some sort of like positive emotion towards him. I thought it was really interesting. So, and then the Nomad ending is Pan Am and the Eldecados help you storm Arasaka Tower, and then you just leave Night City, and you die in 6 months.
Nice. And you die in 6 months.
Yeah.
The key.
Yeah. So that's it. I really enjoyed the endings, though. Just kind of seeing them all, because I did most of them
it was cool.
in the last 2 days.
I enjoyed the story altogether. I thought the endings sounded pretty good. I was even happy with the one that I got, even though it's the least favored.
Yeah.
I was still happy with it.
I thought it was cool, but I was like, oh, no, I fucked up. like, this is bad.
I don't think I fucked up, because in the moment, and, paying attention and you know, listening to what the game is trying to tell me, I don't think I made the wrong decision. Like I would you have given up your body for the Johnny Silverhand in your head?
No.
Yeah, because why would you give a shit? You don't, because like you don't share.
Why would you give a shit about
the game
Johnny?
doesn't do Johnny or his goals. The game didn't do a good job of like.
I think
getting you on
Johnny
Team
has
Johnny.
some points, but he and himself doesn't make them necessarily.
Yeah, he just sounds like
good.
an angry, angsty nerd. Is what he sounds like when he's in your head. Like, corpos and the Nebraskers, and you're a bootlicker and you're a coward. I'm like, fuck you. This is dumb. Like, so, but you know, Otherwise, it was a very cool and interesting conflict, and I liked just even thinking about this discussion because even you know, thinking before, it's like, well, you know, it is a person inside your head who's living in there. I guess it is a consciousness, right?
Right.
How else do you describe
So
it?
It's funny, like
Right.
like either Johnny dies but even if you live, you die anyway.
Yeah,
Like,
which is dumb.
That
is dumb.
And that's the thing to look at. Like
Yeah.
like Johnny's ending, your body lives and Johnny lives.
Yeah, that is kind of dumb.
Johnny's ending in a way is the best ending.
Why did they make that happen?
Because it's because the relic essentially rewrites his DNA so that Johnny can live and V cannot. That's what it is. Johnny, your body is being coaxed into receiving Johnny's personality and his consciousness, whereas V is being overwritten. So even though they take the relic out,
the damage is already done. Yeah,
exactly. And Alt kind of tells
Lame.
you that. Alt's like, yeah, you're fucked.
Yeah, that whole scene with Alt could have been
interesting.
a lot better. The way
The
that
real world scene, or when you're in the black
when you're in
wall?
cyberspace in the black wall.
Yeah.
I feel like that. I liked the graphical representation a little bit, but I feel like they could have just done a lot more. You know, like
Yeah,
it's really
it was minimal, and I
Yeah.
guess that was like, yeah, I get what it's trying to portray.
right. And you know, you do all that, and Alt basically tells you like, well, you can fuck off now.
Yeah, I mean, but Alt is not Alt anymore, and they kind
Right.
of like a few like if you go in there as Johnny,
But she was still like
Johnny definitely was like, you're not Alt.
But she was
anymore, and
like
she tells
the
you that.
neuromancer, you know, like she was like the tech god, you know, like lives
Yeah.
in the black wall and like is essentially like an AI god.
Yeah, no,
Like,
you're right.
That scene could have been a lot cooler. I think so. It was cool. It was just, you know,
And that
looking back, that could have been a lot more mind blowing. It wasn't really.
and that is Cyberpunk.
Yeah, Cyberpunk. How would you rate it out of 10?
Well, I don't. Out of 10, you're gonna make me do this.
Yeah, I'm gonna make you do it.
7.5.
That's fair. I'd say 7.5 too.
Okay. Yeah. Not.
Yeah,
not
that's
that
very
we- I
very
usually
rare that
like
we
give-
actually like align on
Really?
ratings. Yeah, I think so. I
Really?
think this overall we because you know me, I'm a very harsh critic.
Oh, I know.
Like like it,
And you don't buy
I
a
don't
lot of
have
the
any
games.
patience for a lot of stuff. But yeah, I was hyped for this game for a long time.
Yeah. I was really happy to see you picked it up. I was surprised.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that I tampered my expectations a little bit. I think as everyone should with a lot of these AAA titles that promise you the world and they don't deliver.
Yeah.
But it was good, especially if you like the genre. Really sick, which I do.
Yeah,
like.
and I mean, hey, if you
will
like
like it.
this genre, check out Deus
Yeah,
Ex.
if you're looking for a
because
game,
we need another Deus Ex game. It's not finished,
Yeah.
and it didn't. And
wait, is that confirmed? They're actually making one.
no, it's not.
Oh,
So
shit.
Mankind Divided didn't do super well, and I was just like, dude,
No, it didn't.
like
Yeah.
Jensen's story needs to finish. I really like Deus Ex, and I I tweeted the other day. You know how Elon Musk's profile picture was the original Deus Ex for a while?
Yeah.
I tweeted at Elon Musk and then tagged Jensen's voice actor and then Square and Eidos Montreal, and I'm like, yo, Elon, you like Deus Ex? Why don't you just fund the next game?
Dude, he really should.
I was
That'd
like,
be kind of sick.
that game would get made if Elon Musk was like, hey, I'll give you money to make this game.
Well, you know, with speaking of new Cyberpunk, we System Shock the remake is coming out
Isn't-
soon. I think.
is it a remake or is it System Shock? No, it's not 2.
I think it's a remake of one of them. I don't think it's going to be a whole new game. But
Yeah, I
that's
think you're right.
that's a little on the punk.
I've
It's not
never
really on the
played-
punk side. It is like, you know, the techno
the cyber
Yeah.
part of it.
right. Like especially like on the
Is that
Deo X. Yeah, that's
Yo, Gina.
the dog.
Really, dude?
What's he doing?
He's scratching. Come on, man. Right at the end.
Good timing.
Yeah, I guess. Anything else? I'll do the outro.
No, yeah. I mean,
I think we've said a lot.
Yeah, if you're gonna pick it up because you think it's gonna be some next gen mind blowing game and you're hearing all the hype about it, yeah, wait. You're probably not gonna like it. If you love Cyberpunk and you like the style already, absolutely, you're gonna like it. That's what it is. So yeah, that's all I got.
All right,
Goose,
guys.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, this is I'm really impressed with the way you guys are improving the setup again. Yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you.
I love to see it. I really
so
do.
Real quick, Trio was in here earlier and he said he did that Street Kid ending that I was talking about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's the ending he got. But guys, if you've been watching live, thank you for watching us live at twitch.tv/Delco Nerd Network. You can find us on YouTube and podcast services. Just look up Delco Nerd Network, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Delco Nerds. We got a Discord now. You can find that link. Thanks, Gino, for shaking out when I'm talking. You can find that link in the description of either the podcast or the YouTube link. Just look for it. Join our community. The Discord server has been pretty fun. It's like brand new. I probably should have said that at the top of the show. I forgot. Yeah, that kind of things.
Yeah,
happen.
you'll find me flaming and trolling in the
Discord.
Chat.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Stay nerdy. We'll see you next time.
Peace.